Hey, what's good, guys? My name is Chris.
And I'm Jody.
And welcome back to the official WearTesters Unlaced podcast, aka the Pop Culture Podcast. And yeah, we are back from a small hiatus. We decided late last year, or towards the, I don't remember which day we published our last podcast episode, but we had explained in that last episode that we were going to take a little bit of a break at the beginning of the year. I don't think anybody got the memo.
I think they were just like, okay, you had your break, come back now.
But what does a break entail to you? You know what I mean? Like a weekend? No. A break is like, these things take forever to do.
Yeah.
They take forever to edit, and they take forever to upload. But in light of everybody asking us during the entire hiatus, where were we and where is the podcast? This is for you.
We were on a break!
Now, with all that being said, actually, because we'd taken such a long break that I don't remember the order of things.
I know, I feel very out of practice sitting down. All of a sudden I was just like, this is The View? Oh, right, okay.
Exactly. No, this is not The View. This is the Pop Culture Podcast by WearTesters Unlaced. This is going to be our sneaker news segment. When we take a whole month off, guess what happens? There's a lot of news. Instead of going through like sneaker news and all that stuff like we usually do, I'm just going to go over quickly the stuff that has caught my attention. This is via Z Sneakerheads on Instagram. I went straight to the holiday 2024 stuff, but I feel weird doing that and skipping the fall stuff. So this is the fall stuff. We've got black and gray Jordan 12s. We've got, I don't know what to call those. I'm assuming white and cement gray Jordan 3s. We've got just kind of like black and white Air Jordan 4s, like white Thunders. Is that what we're doing?
Regular Oreos?
Well, that color blocking, they consider the Thunder. So there was the Thunder, and then there was the Red Thunder. So I'm assuming these are going to be the white Thunders. And then there's some more Ama Manier drops. I mean, as long as they look like the renders, they look cool. Another, I thought they were stopping the Travis ones, but apparently Jordan Brand's like, nobody's buying our Jordan 1s. What do we do? Drop more Travis Scott ones. We got Olympic 6s coming back. We've got a pair of 13s that are white and navy that nobody's going to give a about because nobody cares about 13s anymore. We've got some, what would you call that? Like the black toe but gray Jordan 1 low OGs. Those look cool. The 17 lows are coming back. They're going to come with a briefcase. One of our podcast episodes, I explained why like the 17s are so expensive to manufacture. The original run of the 17 lows never came with a briefcase. I literally have them somewhere in here, and I have the high tops as well. Those ones did come in a briefcase. So I think that it's very interesting, very weird, and very cool all at the same time that Jordan Brand is dropping the lows with a briefcase. And that's assuming that the news or the information is accurate, because, you know, they could always pull the plug on that and nobody would know. Then we've got just a white and black Jordan 5, some Dookie Browns. I think we did talk about those.
We did. They were good.
You like them, I don't. Looks like we got some Jordan 11 lows in white and navy, a Jordan 1 high that looks very similar to the first Jordan 1 lows that I ever owned and that you bought me, the low tops, way back in 2003 or 4. They're getting turned into a high top. Those are dope. I can't tell what color this is. Are they supposed to be like black and yellow?
They look like ochre if it got left out in the sun too long.
Right, like rotten ochre. There's so many other ones too. There's, you know, mocha, Jordan 1 lows, random 6s, all this stuff. We'll show images in between us and everything for those of you guys that are watching the podcast. This is a video-based podcast, by the way, so I know that we've gotten complaints from people that are like, I'm only an audio viewer. I appreciate you, but this is a video-based podcast, so we put it as audio only as a courtesy.
I had a friend, we went out for breakfast, and she had said that she was embarrassed because she's just like, what are all the platforms you guys are on? Because I only know to like look at your guys' stuff through YouTube. Mm-hmm. And I had laughed being like, I don't even know what all the platforms are, so like don't be embarrassed. And I was just like, I do know, like, yes, primarily we're putting this for YouTube because that's our regular spiel. Mm-hmm. But we're also on Spotify, and I have checked it out on there. And
that's a video based though. That's a weird one.
What I love about it is you can not watch it and have your screen be black and listen to it as a regular podcast. But if you are like, hey, I want to see what they're talking about, you can click on real quick and then you'll see our images. Mm-hmm. Versus my other podcasts that I listen to where I have to go, oh, I need to remember to check their Instagram later, or I need to remember to Google this specific thing so I can see what they're talking about. And so I do like that about how we're doing it. But I know I believe we're on Apple, and I don't think that version has the video attached.
No,
and we're on 2 other things, and So yeah, I like how we have the option where you can quickly, if you are on YouTube or if you are on Spotify, you can just tap the screen real quick and see what.
Right. I'm glad that you brought that up though, because that's the thing is that I understand what those people are explaining, being like, hey, I'm not watching, like,
Yeah.
could you explain like more in detail and stuff like that? But then you're sitting here telling me that when you watch podcasts, or I mean, when you listen to podcasts, that
There's
they're
some homework attached to it
right.
usually.
So apparently that's just normal. It's par
Yeah.
for the course. So I mean, if you're into podcasts, then that should be a norm. So you know what I mean? But this is supposed to be, or the intent is to be a video-based podcast. I know that that might not make sense to normal podcast listeners, but that's just the type of content that I create. It always has been. So I'm not gonna like stray from that, you know what I mean? Like it's like moving away from your roots, just to like, I'm not doing that. I'm not pandering towards podcast listeners. It's like, hey, if you want to listen, we appreciate it. If you don't, like that's okay. Like it's not a big deal, you know what I mean? So yeah, now to keep things moving, Legend Blue 11s, also known as the UNCs, or the All-Stars, if you're an OG, you know, sneakerhead and stuff like that. There's just a pair of all black 5s. I think that those will be popular, but it's not something that I care about personally. So the Black Toe Reimagines are probably the one shoe that I would want to talk more in depth about, only based off of things that we've heard. But supposedly they're going to take the Wings logo off and put the Air Jordan on, which was
It looks so stupid.
well, so the funny thing though is that that's an original sample
I get
from way
that.
back in the day. No, I'm just explaining. Like I know that, like, because this is exactly what I'm talking about when I say like, hey, when you have a retro run for X amount of years looking a certain way, and
Yeah.
then you do something like revert it back to the original shape, or you change the toe cap for no apparent reason, or you do this or you do that. There's a huge chunk of people that only know the shoe as what it's been for that allotted amount of time, to where then you see that and you're like, the f- is that? It's really difficult for this brand to please everybody. So like, I'm glad that they're not trying too hard to do that. But your reaction to it is exactly what I expect most reactions to be. So
It
there's
looks like they're like doing a placeholder of being like, remember,
there's
put
a
the
logo,
logo
gonna
here.
be here. That's exactly what it was. Is that back then they didn't have the logo
Yeah.
quite like, so there were
Finalized.
yeah, there was multiple samples of the Jordan 1. And there's this one product picture of him wearing the jumpsuit, which coincidentally I think has the Wings logo on it. So I don't know if they just didn't move it over to the footwear yet. But he had the black toes around his shoulder, and it was just a photo shoot. And I don't know if it was intended for print, because I don't remember any of like, there's so many print ads and it depends on your region. Like some of them I may have never seen before. But anyways, this photo though is well known, and the Wings logo is not on there, and it says Air Jordan on both sides of the collar. So if that's what they're doing with the reimagined thing, I anticipate people to buy them simply to resell them based off of that or a reimagined name. But are people going to really like with that? And that's where I'm kind of like, I think that might be a miss.
Do you think they'll place it on both sides?
Honestly, I don't know. Yeah, I really, if they're really trying to recreate that PE, then maybe. But I also could be wrong, and maybe that PE didn't have it. Maybe there was just other PEs that did. There's so many of the Jordan 1s that were made and never, you know, released, that like there's so many variations. I'm sure there's variations that we've never even seen. But yeah, so that was an interesting one. The Black Cat 3s are coming back. That's really cool, because that was my first pair of Jordan 3s, was actually those Black Cats. So I think that that's dope. The Black Toe 14s, unribbed, are being brought back, hopefully true to original form. They did that not too long ago. I think in 2014, we have a review on those. Those were truer to original form than the previous release from 06 that had ribs on it. So yeah, the Fear 4's coming back. That's something that I talked about with the Fear 3 review, is like, why this one when there was a whole pack? Like, why are you only focusing on one now?
Jordan Brand said,
Well, that's the thing. I think I said in the video, I don't know if I said in the video and it was removed or if it was left in the video, but I do remember saying like, if you're trickling them out, then you know, whatever I say right now, obviously like just forget about it. But if the 3 was the only one, then I'm like, why that one? Especially when the 4s were the most popular out of the bunch, and they're the most popular shoe out of the bunch currently. Like it's like the hot shoe is the Jordan 4, you know what I mean? Like, whereas like the past couple years has been the 1. Now this is where things get weird. This is the women's releases. So we've got the satin ones, the shadow colorway. I don't care about those, so like it's not a big deal to me. I don't even know if you care about them, because like our son has the satin breads or whatever,
Yeah.
and apparently the public didn't care about them either because they're still everywhere. But they're doing what you like with one of my favorite shoes, the Jordan 11 in a black and red colorway, and they're turning them into velvet. Like, would you wear that over the regular patent leather?
Yes, 100%.
Ah, yeah. So yeah, just weird, but there you go.
I don't like the patent leather on sneakers. I just don't.
I get it. Now I don't know what these are. Howard by like I don't know. There's just some random Jordan 1 lows. Obviously, like I said, if you're watching, you'll be able to see all this stuff. One of them is a Travis Scott. I don't really care about that. There's a brown Jordan 1 low. What do you call that? Shadow toes?
Are these still all women's?
I don't know.
Oh.
So yeah, there's some pink 4s. Those actually, if that's the way that they look in the render, not bad. That's kind of a cool look.
They look
that
like my
soft
shoes
pink,
today.
That's what yeah, the soft pink with the gray, like it's a great look. So yeah, and then we've got the olive Jordan 9s. Some people love those things. Some people hate those things. So that's the definitive hiking boot of Jordan brand. You know what I mean? Like the look. And then this was the most surprising one. They're turning the Chutney 13 lows into a mid, like they did with the black and navy ones. I like that. It's something that fake sneakers have already done like years ago. Like I remember seeing these on like crispykicks.com or something like that. You remember that? So yeah, so like it's something that's been done before in the fake market and everything like that. But you know, Jordan brand is clearly running out of ideas. And so they're doing any and everything that they can to with their lineage and their past and their history and try to twist it into something new to get people to just continue to buy and consume their product. They would last a lot longer, in my opinion, as a brand if they would slow these releases down. You've got a lifetime ahead of you, man. If you want to, well, I mean, if you want to be a legacy brand that outlasts, if you want to be an Adidas and a Puma and a New Balance where you're 100+ years old, you've got to slow down, homie. Like, you are going too fast, dude. They're trying to catch all the profit now before they can't.
Timeout.
All right, so our timeout segment, for those of you guys that are new here, is quite literally what it is. It's a timeout from everything that we just talked about. There's no sneakers, there's no basketball, there's none of that stuff. We revert back into our childlike selves and we go into the things that we loved and watched and enjoyed before all of this stuff, before we hit puberty. Or for some of us, we still, you know, carried it on, obviously, but I'm only going to show 4 items that I got. They're all within the same little, like, what would you call it, franchise and all that stuff. But it was something that I was so excited. I was elated when I saw this. Like, I was just like, holy shit. And it's these guys right here, man. The Fright Feature Real Ghostbusters are back. I cannot tell you how awesome this is. This one right here, Peter Venkman. I actually had him as a kid. I remember pulling his hair off of his peg that's in his head that like lifts up and stuff like that. And I just thought that this was amazing. I'm gonna actually hand this off to you so you can hold on to it.
Were you able to get it back on?
No. So yeah, you know, I'm such a dill hole sometimes where I piss myself off because I'm like, how does this work? And then I almost died one time because I took apart, remember those stereos that were with the record players and they were in the glass?
Oh yeah, my dad has.
Tall kid. Yes, your
From
dad
Christmas.
still has one. Yeah. So my mom had one and it was very expensive. It was like her pride and joy. And I was like, how does all this work? And I took it apart and she almost killed me. And yeah, and so luckily we were able to put it back together. But this is like a little me, like 6, 7-year-old taking up. I know, it was so bad. I've ruined radios, I've ruined CD players, like Discmans and stuff like that. I just wanted to know how things worked. That's all. I was
Did
just
you figure
curious.
out how it worked?
No.
That's the.
No, I didn't. But it was cool looking inside, I'll give you that.
That reminds me, we went out to breakfast with my best like childhood friend and we're sitting there and I was just like, hey, how's your boyfriend? Like, and she went, ugh, he just texted me, I guess our dryer stopped working. And so it's a picture of our dryer completely disassembled. So I know what I'll be doing tonight, reassembling a dryer. Because she's like, he'll never get it back together.
Well, eventually I would figure out how to put things back together. That's how we made our living for quite some time, fixing things.
I think that's different though than like teeny tiny
Chris doing
no,
that?
well, not even that, but just like, I feel like there's a difference between a machine and an electronic.
But
I feel like
both
machines are like mechanical, while
And a CD
electronics
player
are
isn't?
like springs and wires
Oh,
and
the funny thing is that
crystals.
the electronics with the springs, and you don't know there's a spring in there till you open it up, and then that spring is gone.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's never going back. So yeah. Anyways, I really wanted Egon as a kid. Finally have him, and he's awesome. And then we've got Ray. Ray is really cool. This one's my son's favorite. And then for some reason, the hardest one to find out of all of them has been Winston. So like, sorry, I said that wrong. Winston? I said Winstead. Why?
I don't know.
I don't know either. But Winston, for some reason, is the hardest one to find. I've only been able to find him once. I found all the others at least 2 times, and I still see them in stores. I did buy 2 of each, except for with him, because I, again, couldn't find a second one yet, because I had to open them so we can play with them.
Maybe it's a play on, wasn't that the joke in Stranger Things, where like somebody didn't want to be Winston? Or like a
Possibly.
bunch of them didn't want to be Winston?
I guess. I always thought that Winston was the coolest one, because he was like the reluctant Ghostbuster.
I could be wrong. It's probably one of the other characters, but there was definitely one Ghostbuster
no, I
that they
think-
didn't want to be.
I think you're right. I don't know which one it was, but yeah, this one is also my son's favorite like one, but we haven't been able
It's
to open
because
them.
he hasn't been able to actually touch him.
I think that's what I think that's what it is. It's my most curious one too, because he's the only one with the action feature that I have not personally played with before. Like I've played with all of these as a kid. Even as a kid, I never found Winston. Like none of my friends had him. And now this is the part where we go over the shoes we didn't review. Today there's only one, and it's a doozy. Look, man, I love the Iverson line. I love Reeboks. I hate what they do. I really do, especially right now. Like this stuff is awful. This shoe in this colorway is so awesome, and this shoe right here in this form as this retro is so that I couldn't even bring myself to make a video about these, because all I would do is just piss and moan. There is nothing good outside of the visuals about this. They made them look like they used to, but it is quite literally a shell of itself. There is no DMX cushion in this. The leather is not leather. It's all vinyl. This was a premium product back in the day. I get that things don't fit the budget and stuff like that. If that's the case, don't put out the product. Let people still want it until you're able to put it out properly. Because then what you do is that you bring it to market. You're like, hey, everybody that was a fan of this shoe and this colorway and that you wanted these for X amount of years, here you go. We couldn't really afford to do it the way that we wanted to do it for you, but you've asked for it so long and so hard, that's what she said, that we're gonna f it all up. And that's what they've done. So yeah, good job, Reebok. Round of applause. Slow clap. And Reebok was doing so well. Like, I think they were like underrated. Like their retro product was underrated. Being like, man, they're using nice leather. They've just gone so downhill so fast. It's so sad, you know? They still look cool, I'll give it that. But like, this is just a piece of shit product. There's also one other thing that I did want to showcase. It's actually not a shoe. It's just something that like I don't feel we would, I don't know how to explain it. Like if I were to put a video out about this, like I don't think anybody would watch it.
Well, I'm just excited because I don't even know what these things are.
Well, so these are like sneaker preservation things. So this is Team CapSole. So CapSole, not Capsule from Dragon Ball, like the Capsule Corp. So this is the way that it came. It came in a tube. It also came with a package of what looked like CO2 cartridges, but it said that they were not CO2 cartridges. These were funny because I don't know if you guys remember the Reebok Shack Attack pump, but like that's how you had to pump them up, was with a CO2 cartridge. You literally had to like buy cartridges to pump them.
That's so stupid.
Oh no, it was amazing at the time.
Yeah, but like,
I know.
how many pumps do you get out of one?
Not many, because you're trying so hard to save that. It's, you know what I mean? So yeah, but it was cool. But anyways, this is what they come with. They come with the little cartridges of whatever that is. And
Magic.
I guess, yeah. And then comes in a microfiber bag, but this is the bag itself. Jeez. Okay, and so it's got a a little stuck. Sorry, bad presentation. Come on, bro, open up. You want to try it? Maybe it needs a woman's touch.
I feel like I'm gonna like punch myself in the face.
It did need a woman's touch. What do you know?
It was like caught on the...
Yeah, that's what I figured. I just didn't want to rip the plastic.
So instead, let me.
Well, because then I can blame you for it. So, but anyways, this is the package. It's zippered, enclosed, obviously, and it was a little tough to open up at first. But it's see-through, so you can at least see what's in there. And then what you would do is you would close it all up after your product is in there.
Just one shoe at a time?
No, you put a pair in there.
Okay.
And then this is what you put. It's really weird, but you put this valve in there, and that's what you hook up your cartridge to. And then this is the air release. But yeah, and so it will vacuum seal everything in there and preserve essentially your sneakers. You can obviously reopen them, so that's why there's the extra cartridge, you know, pack and stuff like that. I know you're gonna think this is dumb, but for people that care about this stuff, man.
How much did the whole thing cost?
I don't know, because they sent it over.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so I do not know that, and I don't know, or I do know, I would personally not go through this.
It just seems like...
Unless I had an original pair of something from like the 80s.
And you never want to like touch them again.
I want to make sure that they're preserved.
Okay.
That is what I would use this for. Do I personally own anything like that? No. That's the problem. You can reopen them and reseal them and all that stuff. So say you have a pair that some off-whites or something, you know, highly coveted to you, and you just want to bust them out every once in a while. And in between those times, you want to make sure that they're fresh and preserved and stuff like that. That's what something like this would be good for. You can still look at them and make sure that they're okay. I will tell you from experience, I have the Playoff 13s, the most recent retro that released, I think, last year. They had the hologram with the little like plastic cover over the hologram and all that stuff. And I'm not talking about the little sticky thing that you pull off. I'm talking about the actual plastic cover of the hologram. Those things back in the day used to eventually fog up. It would take 10 years, but it would eventually fog up, and you can heat them up to like, you know, with a hairdryer and like defog them and stuff. And then eventually those things just crumble and stuff because it's
Crumble.
Could I be any weirder? But no, rest in peace to
Matthew Perry.
yes, thank you.
He's been having to hear a lot about him lately because I just listened to his audiobook.
Well, also I feel like I'm stuttering like crazy. My brain is going like a mile a minute because I can see the time ticking, and I'm just like, get this done quickly. But yeah, so shoe like that, like it used to take 10 plus years for that little plastic thing to deteriorate and fog up, and you'd be like, I just bought these, and I went to pick them up the other day, and I was like, what the hell happened? You know what I mean? And all they've been doing is just kind of sitting over there in the corner. No rhyme or reason for why the hologram thing, obviously it's because it's made cheaply nowadays. It's not like they used to. So yeah, so that's one example where if I really cared that much, I'd put them in something like this. Do I care that much? No. But like I said, I'm not everybody. I am not the best person. Like, I know that people think that I'm like some kind of crazy sneakerhead. You must have a crazy collection. You must have all... Nope, you can ask her. Like, while it's not minimal by any means, it's not crazy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I have the stuff that I have. I have the things that I will never get rid of, that I can't wear, that most people think is dumb. Like the things that I have in my collection that are like OGs are team shoes. Like Team Jordans, literally, like the Team 1s and stuff. Like I have original pairs of these shoes that all of you guys think are stupid. I'm a nostalgia guy. You know what I mean? So like history over hype, stuff like that's what I'm about, you know what I mean? So like the things that I love, I truly do love, and I stay in that kind of realm. I don't buy hyped shoes. Like I just got my first pair, like a pair of off-white 5s, and I just happened to be able to be like, oh, I can do this, you know what I mean? So I splurged a little bit. But am I keeping them in this thing? No. So I'm not. But I do think it's cool for people that have those types of items. You know what I mean? So that's what it is. So that's really all this is. They sent this over. This is not a promo. This is not a plug. I didn't tell them that I was going to do this or anything like that. All I did was say like, hey, if you want to send it over, I'll check it out. That's pretty much it. I did think it was cool enough to at least show, because I know that there are, I think that's the thing, is that like as a person in a space that has a platform, which unfortunately is me. I know we've talked about this before too, like why did you do this? I don't know, but here I am, right? So if I'm at least here, I'm not trying purposefully to be the voice of every person, because that's just impossible, you know what I mean? But I'm very mindful, at least I hope that I am, of every person. Like I don't ever want to on anybody or belittle anybody based off of their likes and their dislikes and stuff like that. So if you're an OG collector and you got a lot of stuff that is just kind of sitting or rotting in a box, like you can do what you can to preserve it. Okay, so we have something very cool and special, or I don't know how special it is since we've done it a few times now, but it's not an everyday or regular occurrence on the podcast that we're able to, allot some time to speak with designers, but when we can, we definitely do. And this was one that I was personally excited about because we got to sit down with a couple of members from the design team, including the lead designer himself, on the Adidas AE1, one of the shoes that I think is one of the best of 2024 so far, not just on court, but just in general. I think that this is such a cool shoe with such a great marketing campaign. I had a good time talking to these guys, so I hope that you guys enjoy. All right, guys, so we have something really special today. We are talking with two members from the AE1 design team, Patrick and Andrew. We're gonna ask them some really cool questions, or hopefully, and get a little bit more insight as far as the design on the AE1. My first question is just to clarify the overall tech in the shoe. I know that I read that there was Light Strike and Jet Boost. Is that true? And if not, what is in there? And I know that Jet Boost is in there, but could you clarify exactly what Jet Boost is?
So what we have is full ride Jet Boost. So heel to toe, all underfoot, full Jet Boost. And what Jet Boost is just using kind of smaller pellets of boost. So what you're able to do is then pack in more of those pellets into the mold. And what that then allows us to do, and where it's better in normal boost, is it just gives more responsiveness. So it's like by compacting more, you get more energy return, and it's just a more bouncier kind of responsive cushioning than our normal boost.
When using something like Jet Boost, does that allow you to get closer to the floor without losing any impact protection?
Well, the good thing about boost is like what you put in, you get out. So by being responsive, and specifically for an athlete like Anthony Edwards, who's very explosive, you don't want him to lose any energy on court. So especially someone that's, exploding vertically, the energy he puts in, because it's then more bouncier, it then gives him that energy back to then accelerate vertically. So that's the main kind of attribute to boost.
Something that I'm really interested in is the upper on these. Like, not only is the design overall kind of polarizing, but it's just really lightweight, but also supportive and extremely breathable. Like, what is this material here? Like, the only thing that I've ever compared it to is something called Curum, which we've only used, or not used, but only seen real kind of sparingly in footwear. So what is this exactly, and how did you even come up with using it in the first place?
I mean, to kind of go back to the very beginning, when we met with Anthony Edwards, he off the bat challenged us with, creating something that felt very different. And to us that, we kind of had to approach the product very differently. I feel like sometimes when you're designing shoes, you kind of follow the usual rules of what the rubber top line is, the midsole top line, and then how that interacts with the upper. For us, we kind of wanted to approach it differently and kind of knock those rules out. So using that in tandem with how he played, which was very explosive, we felt like we had to almost approach it in a very architectural kind of way where, you're not following those normal rules of, a mesh kind of strobed upper sitting on top of a midsole. So approaching it more architecturally, we kind of wanted to, kind of wrap it more underfoot. We were always trying to go for more like a 360 kind of build to it, just because he's so explosive. He was testing off the charts compared to some of our other athletes, both vertically and laterally. So I think kind of being inspired by his playing style and that 360 force, just in all directions, kind of inspired us to create a shoe that was just different from the ground up. So that led us to then designing these kind of precision TPU injected panels that could really hold his foot, yet still be, flexible enough and not hinder his very intense, precise movements on court. So yeah, it's a TPU molded panel, and it's co-molded with a mesh underneath. And of course, that's helps with venting and breathability, of course. So yeah, that's kind of how it started and how we ended up where we are. But ultimately, what he pushed us to do was just something very futuristic and something that could kind of capture the energy and speed of his play.
Speaking of Anthony Edwards, how much involvement did he have during the whole development process? I personally love the marketing campaign that you guys are doing for these. I know that that's a different department, but it's one of those real aggressive style of marketings that I just think are really fun to, as a customer, just participate in by buying the product, wearing the product, and seeing it next to competitors on the shelf. So how much was he involved from start to finish with the entire process?
He was pretty involved. We met him like, I can't even remember. It's been a while back, but we met him in Atlanta, and actually, like, while he was testing and getting data on some of his other shoes that he was wearing at the time. And we've met with him, several times throughout the process, and he's been a very like engaging athlete. He'll let you know if he doesn't like something. He lets you know if he likes something, in a good way, because we're all, we're trying to make the best product for him to make him play the best on court. So yeah, he was involved quite a lot of storytelling, a lot of insights from who he is and kind of how he's got to where he is now.
Yeah, and this was a project where I think like the planning worked pretty well in our favor. Sometimes in shoes, you might come with like a sample already kind of made to like talk through like, oh, like this is something we're thinking about. Where do you want to go with it? For him, we were able to start from scratch and just like blank slate. So it kind of started with us kind of showing some just quick vibes to him being the perfect muse. Definitely inspired us to like go a certain direction, but we kind of presented these 3 buckets to him originally, and he was gravitating to this very futuristic bucket. And I think just even that insight alone and just how much he wanted to push and not look like anything else on court was different to what we usually do with athletes, and at least the timing allowed us to like get his opinion very early on and not kind of force a direction immediately with him. But yeah, he was involved all throughout, kind of like in the sampling and notes. And I think a lot of his involvement for sure came through then like the storytelling. So then once we then started building the shoe, Andrew was able to work with him on a lot of storytelling. And I think, yeah, maybe you could talk a bit about that. But yeah, a lot more of that personal DNA came through the color stories and stuff.
Yeah, it was like Pat was saying, when we met with him, we didn't go in with these are the 6 colorways that we want to do on the shoe. It was more energy. So we showed him images of tidal waves and lions and these very like kind of things in attack and very powerful images. We talked about, him being the next pillar within the brand. We talked about, people that have worn Adidas, Muhammad Ali, Tyson, David Beckham, even outside of basketball. And we could feel the energy that he was going to transcend even the sport, which was exciting because it allowed us to kind of push to a new space. And then through that and through our Adidas DNA and our design codes that we've developed over the last couple of years in basketball, kind of got to where the finished product ended up being. But I think us going in open-minded and him going in open-minded as well was kind of the catalyst for the project.
Speaking of Adidas DNA, when I see something like this, I've been, playing basketball for over half my life, so I immediately see something like, or at least in loose reference to like the Adidas Crazy One or something like the Mad Handle, which is one of my favorite from the like that 2000s era. And even when you move forward to more modern stuff like the Yeezy line or the Yeezy basketball, is there anything specifically design-wise that influenced a little bit of this, or is this really just Adidas DNA and what we could look forward to with your guys' products? I also just got in the, I can't remember what they're called. They're like the new Adi Zero shoe. And so they don't look quite like these, but they look just as fun and kind of aggressive. So you kind of have that same language going throughout despite the designs being different. So is there anything from your past that you're directly pulling to or pulling from, or is it just happen to be like that is what Adidas is at its core?
Yeah, to me, there was definitely a little bit of DNA from the Crazy One. To me, it was more like the mindset of like, how ahead of time that shoe was. I mean, he was even wearing it when we met with him the first time, which was pretty interesting. So we were able to kind of reference that. So a little bit of that mindset of what that shoe represented at the time, and then as well as just how futuristic that shoe was built, definitely kind of inspired a little bit of how we approach this, kind of more 360 built to it. Other kind of DNA stuff that we're doing is we feel like some of our good shoes always have like, a good kind of toe kind of containment narrative, even dating back to like the shell toe. So that was something we wanted to celebrate here. And then specifically from like a color blocking standpoint, some iconic shoes we have just have like the kind of black, fade to black, fade into the sock kind of upper. So that's kind of how that came about. Yeah, I mean, to me, like the shoe was kind of always, like a little bit of that Crazy One, but then you throw in like that Predator Adidas football DNA. And that was even a pillar we kind of talked to him about, was like Predator Adidas football, what that represents, always on attack, just always high energy. And he gravitated to that as well. So to me, it was kind of like always kind of that, like, how do you take the future vibe of Crazy One, but then specific to Ant and how aggressive he is on court, the Predator DNA, and then how do you tie in all the simplicity to make it work, was kind of how I always saw it, at least from our DNA aspect.
Yeah, most of my time at Adidas has been in originals and lifestyle basketball. So I've worked on shoes like Superstar and Forum and Rivalry and all these classics, as well as like some of the 90s and 2000s stuff. So understanding like where we've been and then how to, distill these very like original concepts from the brand, like the shell toe and the simplicity of a shoe like a Stan Smith, where you only have that one green hit on the back, and then distilling that obviously in a modern context and for Ant. So no one shoe I think was referenced directly, but we just wanted it to have that DNA so that it felt like Adidas. I think when you see it on the shelf, it feels like an Adidas shoe, and it feels like not where we've been, but kind of where we're going, which is exciting.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that, especially with no 3 stripes on the side, which is pretty standard. I love the clean look of everything. The color blocking on these has been really fun so far, even though they've been what some people would consider basic, but like that black-white colorway is so clean and simple. Does definitely remind me of the crazy one. I love that blue one that you were showing earlier. Is there any cool or fun color applications that we could look forward to in the future? Are there any maybe interesting things that you could do with this upper with color?
Yeah, I think some of the stuff is, it's because it's such a simple design. I think one thing that we wanted to do was highlight those functional pieces. So we really liked the idea of that wing and containment story being the main color block. Your secondary read is obviously your heel logo. He's been contrasting the laces with that logo, which is a really cool look on court. But because it's TPU and it's kind of a one piece look, a lot of the new stuff that we're working on is very process driven. So it's a little more progressive, and it's, I would say, not as traditional as things that we've seen maybe in the past or in the current basketball landscape, which again is exciting because it's allowing us to relook at how storytelling is done in basketball, and then also letting him kind of create these icons. The white and black, every Adidas shoe in the history of our brand has come in white and black. And so for him to wear that shoe and throw it off the glass to himself, like that now becomes the story, which, in 20 years when new kids are coming into the brand and they're looking at shoes to reference that, we're trying to create those long lasting icons and be less caught up in the day to day that we see across the rest of the landscape.
Yeah, something this kind of TPU material allows us to do is just explore a lot of executions we haven't kind of been able to do. So the more synthetic material, there's definitely a lot of wild treatments that we've discovered, as you can see in the kind of all-star colorway, that kind of color shift. And we got some other stuff in the pipeline that is pretty high energy. So that material definitely allowed us to kind of discover some and explore some pretty wild treatments that you might not be able to do on a normal kind of mesh upper. We got some kind of fun stuff coming in the pipeline.
And last but not least, are there any Easter eggs kind of hidden within the shoe? I know that we talked about storytelling a little bit earlier, but is there anything in here that you guys wanted to point out that people should be aware of, especially if they're fans of Anthony Edward?
The sock liners.
Yeah, some of the sock liners, like the first one obviously has his face and kind of a halftone print. The second one has the wave graphic and a halftone print, but we didn't want to overdo it with this one. I think we wanted this one to kind of be the icon, and as we get deeper and deeper into his line, we'll learn more about him and he'll be able to bring newer things to us as well. So I think in the future, there's definitely some cool things that will start to pop up.
All right. Well, I just wanted to say thank you to both of you guys for your time, as well as Adidas for allowing you guys to come on the podcast and talk about the AE1. This is one of my favorite shoes so far in the year, which sounds strange because the year just started, but so far so good. If you wanted to, just go ahead and let everybody know where they can find you guys on social so that they can follow you and see what you guys have coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, I guess my socials are just my name, Patrick Zimpolic, at Patrick Zimpolic on Instagram.
Same thing. Mine's just my name, Andrew Parks. The A in my last name was a V because somebody already had that one taken, so I had to flip it upside down. But yeah.
But yeah, no, I just want to say, thanks so much for the opportunity. Definitely watched a lot of your videos, Chris. Just always check out, see what you think of the shoes. So kind of wild to see. Pretty full circle. So appreciate the love on the shoe, and I would love to hear more what you think of the shoe, and of course how we can always be better.
I actually have one last question. First off, thank you for watching and supporting what we do. We really appreciate it. For other people that might not know your work, what else have you designed over at Adidas that maybe somebody's already worn?
So I've kind of always been in the team space. I designed the Next Level Future Natural. That was kind of our more futuristic team offering. Recently, the Adi Zero Select 2.0 that you brought up earlier. I've done some Boost You Wear Select stuff. And then in the signature space, the Adidas, like the Son of Shy series, that was kind of my warm up to the signature space and kind of, how to distill the storytelling and building for the athlete.
For me, I've worked on I've worked on a lot of classic Superstar, Forum 84, Rivalry, a lot of those. Worked on the first boost you wear, if you remember, from 2018, I think, with the knit sock. And then as far as like our new space in LA, worked with obviously Ant, Harden, Dame. So a lot of the new stuff that you'll see coming out. Harden 7 was really my first full performance project. Worked a little bit on the Fear of God project. So yeah, kind of a do-it-all Swiss Army knife.
That's amazing. So thank you guys once again for taking the time to be with us. We really appreciate it. And hopefully we'll see you guys soon. All right. So that pretty much takes care of it. What episode? I don't think we talked about that.
We're episode 17.
Sorry, I haven't done this in a minute. We were on a break. And can I just say real quick that I love that I was able to use that reference in a video finally.
Good.
Because that's one of my favorite ongoing or running jokes in that series.
Yeah.
Is we were on a break. You know what I mean? Because I'm on Ross's side on that. She broke up with him. What happens afterwards it's just on no one, really.
It was like immediate, though.
He was upset.
I'm just saying, it was immediate.
It was immediate. He
and
thought
she
it was
immediately went to him.
No, she waited too long, and she had some guy that she worked with. I don't remember his name. Was it?
She was not into him.
Doesn't
she
matter.
just thought he was her work friend.
Doesn't matter. When he called, he heard him in the background. Mm-hmm. That's betrayal to a man. You know what I mean? So I'm on Ross's side with that. Let me know if you are too, because any real man or any real person would see that as Rachel is toxic as and she is. She even was told that on the plane. You're a bad person.
Oh, by House?
Yes. And I was like, finally, somebody said it. So anyways, I was just happy to be able to use the gag here. And but anyways, this is episode 17. I really hope that you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for allowing us to take a break. I really do emphasize that doing these is difficult. Like, and I don't mean like literally difficult. It's a lot of work. Like, it takes forever to edit the segments down and all that stuff. And I know that some people are like, stop the editing. If you would like to make a podcast,
You can.
you can. But this is the way that we like to make ours. So yeah, and I think that people that don't make content don't understand what it's like to make content. Like, I would never sit there. I always think this is funny, like for anybody that watches sports and they're like, just catch the ball. I'm like, bro, he's trying. Like,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you think that he's going out there and just being like, well, maybe next time. You know what I mean? Like, come on, man. He's got a stadium full of people and a nationally televised sometimes amount of people watching him. Do you think that he's trying to not catch the ball? Like, give the guy a break. He's doing his best. We're doing our best. We're doing what we can. But yeah, so thank you guys for everything. We really appreciate it. Anything that you want to say?
Jody's Corner will be back next week. I had a couple of options for this week, but with the extras that we did, it just wasn't time feasible.
Yeah.
We don't want an hour and a half long podcast. I know some people really like those. We try and keep it about the hour as our sweet spot. Mm-hmm. I had a couple of options, like I said.
Let them know the options and then you guys vote.
Well, one of them I won't even be able to do next week because it was already
Why?
going to be kind of outdated as it was.
Oh.
But one of the options was we're finally going to revisit the conversation that we had teased a few episodes ago where we were going to talk about the OGs, the purists or whatever, who have all the knowledge, whether it's mostly in our space.
Was that the gatekeeping thing?
Yes, it's mostly, for us, we could talk about it with sneakers, but really it could be anything. If you want to talk about comics, if you want to talk about movies, the people who are like, oh, you weren't there from the beginning. And then you have these new people who are excited and all of a sudden they're like, oh, this is too intense. And so there's a whole...
And they're getting on by the old guys.
There's a whole conversation and we really want to talk about that. The other thing that I was going to talk about possibly was Groundhog's Day because it just happened.
Oh, did it?
Yes, it's actually today. Our filming is all out of whack. And so supposedly spring is going to show up sooner rather than later.
Okay.
And my thing, the whole reason that I saw it was I follow this guy or lady on Instagram.
Guy or lady?
I mean, I don't know what
so
they
you
are.
follow an account.
I follow an account.
Okay.
It's Movie Facts. I love them. They just give me random little tidbits. And they had put up a thing saying that Bill Murray was bitten by the groundhog twice during the shooting of Groundhog Day.
What was he doing to it?
I don't know.
How do you rile up a groundhog?
So this is back in 93. So this is where I'm kind of like confused because Murray had to have anti-rabies injections done because the bites were so severe. Now,
What did he do to that thing?
well, so this is where I'm confused. I don't know if it's because it
That
happened.
wasn't a puppet?
I think you're thinking of Caddyshack.
I am thinking of Caddyshack. That was a puppet.
But so this happened in 93, and for those of you guys who have listened to me talk and actually like remember weird tidbits, I love podcasts and I really enjoy Armchair Expert, and Armchair Expert has a subset where it's Flightless Bird, and the guy for Flightless Bird, he had a moment with a squirrel and he has pictures of it, everything, because he was taking a picture and the thing bit him. And so he had to go through this whole process of getting all of these rabies shots. And there's a lot of them you have to do. And you can't just take one and be like, you have to complete the
It's like a
series.
round?
Yes.
Okay.
And they're expensive, like really expensive. And
I think we had this conversation.
the thing that you have to do, yes, I like broke it down for you on one of our walks. But the thing is, the best way for you to find out, like there's no way for me to test and see like, oh, you were bit, let me see if you have rabies.
By the time you find out that you got rabies, you're dying.
Yes, like it can live in you for months before it, and it's like eating away at your brain. And so the best way to find out like if you really need the rabies shots is to take the animal that bit you and have tests done to that. And so I'm like, why didn't they test the groundhog instead of making Bill Murray like...
I don't know.
I can't...
Good luck finding that squirrel, though.
Oh, I know. That was like... Well, that's the thing, like when people like have bats in their house and like, it was a great episode. If you guys want to listen to it, go look up Flightless Bird. I want to say I listened to that podcast like 6 months ago, so you got to go back a little bit. But yeah, so I'm just kind of like, has medicine changed that much since 1993 or...
For that, I doubt it.
Or are they like, no, this is like a trained groundhog. Sorry, it bit ya. We don't want to like harm the animal. Because I think the animal has to be dead for you to do the test.
I was gonna say they'd probably have to see something in its brain.
Yeah.
So maybe. Can I just say real quick, off subject? Anytime I hear about bats,
they have crazy teeth. If they bite you, you don't even know. Like their teeth are like less than mosquitoes.
Yep. But is anybody else like me where when you hear bats, all you hear is Jim Carrey saying guano?
No. I hear the beginning of Scooby-Doo where they come flying at you.
Okay.
When I went to watch 6 earlier this week, there was a bat in the theater house. Like you would see it like fly by, and at one point I had to turn to Melissa and be like, is that thing real or is it a part of the show?
Yo, that I'd have left. It's so weird. I'm afraid of bats and spiders, and I love the characters Spider-Man and Batman.
So, are you
what?
Batman or Spider-Man?
No, why the hell?
Because Batman is Batman because he was afraid of the bats.
Oh,
and
yeah.
So,
I mean, am I a billionaire?
Philanthropist?
No, that's Tony Stark. We've gone over this.
Playboy?
Yeah, that's Tony Stark, okay? Can't do that.
Anyways, this was like the longest outro ever. So.
Oh my God, we were on our period together. We're synced.
Okay, jinx.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
You owe me a soda.
What? We didn't say it at the same time.
We did.
We did. Okay. That would have been funny.
I'm just saying there was two ways we could have gone.
That would have been funnier than saying that we're in sync.
Bye, bye, bye.
Peace.